Why ain't you up and running again?
I'm in despair. The physical damage is repairable, but the psychic wound may be permanent.
You ever been beaten, Merrick?
Once, when I thought I had the smallpox, Doc Cochran slapped me in the face. Stop it, Al.
Are you dead?
Well, I'm in pain, but no, I'm obviously not dead.
But obviously you didn't fucking die when the doc slapped you.
No.
So, including last night, that's 3 fucking damage incidents that didn't kill you. Pain or damage don't end the world. Or despair. Or fucking beatings. The world ends when you're dead. Until then, you got more punishment in store. Stand it like a man. And give some back.
I rise today to begin to filibuster John Brennan's nomination for the CIA. I will speak until I can no longer speak. I will speak as long as it takes until the alarm is sounded from coast to coast that our Constitution is important, that your rights to trial by jury are precious, that no American should be killed by a drone on American soil without first being charged with a crime, without first being found to be guilty by a court, that Americans could be killed in a cafe in San Francisco, or in a restaurant in Houston, or at their home in Bowling Green, Kentucky, is an abomination. It is something that should not and cannot be tolerated in our country. I don't rise to oppose John Brennan's nomination simply for the person. I rise today for the principle. The principle is one that as Americans we have fought long and hard for, and to give up on that principle, to give up on the Bill of Rights, to give up on the Fifth Amendment protection that says that no person shall be held without due process, that no person shall be held for a capital offense without being indicted. This is a precious American tradition and something we should not give up on easily. They say Lewis Carroll is fiction. Alice never fell down a rabbit hole, and the White Queen's caustic judgments are not really a threat to your security. Or has America the Beautiful become Alice's Wonderland? No, no, said the Queen. Sentence first, verdict afterwards. Stuff and nonsense, Alice said loudly. The idea of having the sentence first? Hold your tongue, said the Queen, turning purple. I won't, said Alice. Release the drones, said the Queen, as she shouted at the top of her voice. Lewis Carroll is fiction, right? When I asked the President, can you kill an American on American soil, it should have been an easy answer. It's an easy question. It should have been a resounding and unequivocal no. The President's response, he hasn't killed anyone yet. We're supposed to be comforted by that. The President says, I haven't killed anyone yet. He goes on to say, and I have no intention of killing Americans, but I might. Is that enough? Are we satisfied by that? Are we so complacent with our rights that we would allow a president to say he might kill Americans, but he will judge the circumstances? He will be the sole arbiter. He will be the sole decider. He will be the executioner-in-chief if he sees fit. Now, some would say he would never do this. Many people give the president they give him consideration. They say he's a good man. I'm not arguing that he's not. What I'm arguing is that the law is there and set in place for the day when angels don't rule government, Madison said that the restraint on government was because government will not always be run by angels. This has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with whether the president is a Democrat or a Republican. Were this a Republican president, I'd be here saying exactly the same thing. No one person, no one politician should be allowed to judge the guilt, to charge an individual, to judge the guilt of an individual, and to execute an individual. It goes against everything that we fundamentally believe in our country. This isn't even new to our country. There's 800 years of English law that we found our tradition upon. We found it upon the Magna Carta from 1215. We found it upon Morgan of Glamorgan from 725 AD. We found it upon the Greeks and Romans who had juries. It is not enough to charge someone to say that they are guilty. Now, some might come to this floor and they might say, well, what if we're being attacked on 9/11? What if there are planes flying at the Twin Towers? Obviously, we repel them. We repel any attack on our country. If there's a gentleman or a woman with a grenade launcher attacking our buildings or our Capitol, we use lethal force. You don't get due process if you're involved with actively attacking us, our soldiers, or our government. You don't get due process if you're overseas in a battle shooting at our soldiers. But that's not what we're talking about. The Wall Street Journal reported and said that the bulk of the drone attacks are signature attacks. They don't even know the name of the person. A line or a caravan is going from a place where we think there are bad people to a place where we think they might commit harm, and we kill the caravan, not the person. Is that the standard that we will now use in America? Will we use a standard for killing Americans to be that we thought you were bad, we thought you were coming from a meeting with bad people, and you were in a line of traffic, and so therefore you were fined for the killing? That is the standard we're using overseas. Is that the standard we're going to use here? I will speak today until the president responds and says, no, we won't kill Americans in cafes. No, we won't kill you at home in your bed at night. No, we won't drop bombs on restaurants. Is that so hard? It's amazing that the president will not respond. I've been asking this question for a month. It's like pulling teeth to get the president to respond to anything. And I get no answer. The president says he hasn't done it yet, and I'm to be comforted. You are to be comforted in your home. You are to be comforted in your restaurant. You are to be comforted online, communicating in your email that the president hasn't killed an American yet on the homeland. He says he hasn't done it yet. He says he has no intention to do so. Hayek said that nothing distinguishes arbitrary government from a government that is run by the whims of the people than the rule of law. The law is an amazingly important thing, an amazingly important protection. And for us to give up on it so easily really doesn't speak well of what our founding fathers fought for, what generation after generation of American soldiers have fought for, what soldiers are fighting for today when they go overseas to fight wars for us. It doesn't speak well of what we're doing here to protect the freedom at home. When our soldiers are abroad fighting for us, that we say that our freedom's not precious enough for one person to come down and say, enough's enough, Mr. President. Come clean, come forward and say you will not kill Americans on Americans. Thank you. Thank you. Now, I was told I got 10 measly minutes. But just in case, I bought 13 hours worth of information. I also came with a message for the president, a message that is loud and clear a message that doesn't mince words. Well, that's not exactly what I was thinking. However, I think he may have distilled my 13-hour speech into 3 words. The message for the president is that no one person gets to decide the law. No one person gets to decide your guilt or innocence. My question to the president was about more than just killing Americans on American soil. My question was about whether presidential power has limits. Lincoln put it well when he wrote, "Nearly all men can stand adversity, but if you want to test a man, give him power." President Obama, who seemed once upon a time to respect civil liberties, has become the president who signed a law allowing for indefinite detention of an American citizen. Indeed, a law that allows an American citizen to be sent to Guantanamo Bay without a trial. Now, President Obama defends his signing of this bill by stating that he has no intention of detaining an American citizen without a trial. Likewise, he defended possible targeted drone strikes on Americans by indicating that he had no intention of doing so. Well, my 13-hour filibuster was a message to the president. Good intentions are not enough. The presidential oath of office states, "I will protect, preserve, and defend the Constitution." It doesn't say, "Well, I intend to when it's convenient." Mr. President, good intentions are not enough. We want to know, will you or won't you defend the Constitution? Eisenhower wrote, "How far can you go without destroying from within what you are trying to defend from without?" If we destroy our enemy but lose what defines our freedom in the process, have we really won? If we allow one man to charge Americans as enemy combatants and indefinitely detain or drone them, then what exactly is it that our brave young men and women are fighting for? Montesquieu wrote that there can be no liberty if you combine the executive and the legislative branches. Likewise, there can be no justice if you combine the executive and the judicial branch. We separated arrest from accusation and trial and verdict for a reason. When Lewis Carroll's White Queen shouts, "Sentence first, verdict afterwards," the reader's response is supposed to be, "But that would be absurd." In our country, the police can arrest, but only your peers can convict. We prize our Bill of Rights like no other country. Our Bill of Rights is what defines us. It's what makes us exceptional. To those who would dismiss this debate as frivolous, I say, tell that to the heroic young men and women who sacrificed their limbs and lives. Tell that to the 6,000 parents of kids who died as American soldiers in Iraq and Afghanistan. Tell them the Bill of Rights is no big deal. Tell it to Sergeant J.D. Williams, who's one of my neighbors. He lives in Auburn, Kentucky, a few miles from me. He sacrificed himself to save his fellow soldiers. Tell J.D., who lost both legs and an arm, tell him his sacrifice was great, but that we had to suspend the Bill of Rights he fought for. I don't think so. The filibuster was about drones, but also about much more. Do we have a Bill of Rights? Do we have a Constitution? And will we defend it? In his farewell speech in 1989, Reagan said, "As government expands, liberty contracts." He was right. Government cannot give us our liberty. Our rights come from our Creator. But as government grows, liberty becomes marginalized. The collective takes precedent over the individual. Freedom shrinks. And our government today is larger than it has ever been in our history. Everything that America has been, everything we ever wished to be, is now threatened by the notion that you can have something for nothing, that you can have your cake and eat it too, that you can spend $1 trillion every year that you don't have. The president seems to think that we can keep adding to a $16 trillion debt. The president seems to think that the country can continue to borrow $50,000 a second. The president just believes we just need to squeeze more money out of those who are working. He's got it exactly backwards. I'm here to tell you that what we need to do is keep more money in the pockets of those who earned it. Look at how ridiculous Washington politicians have behaved over this sequester. The president did a big, oh, woe is me, over $1 trillion sequester that he endorsed and he signed into law. Some Republicans joined him. But the sequester didn't even cut any spending. It just slows the rate of growth of government. Even with the sequester, the federal government will grow over $7 trillion over the next decade. Only in Washington can a $7 trillion increase in spending be called a cut. Now the president's trying to step up. He's trying to do his fair share. After the sequester was announced, he said he's going to stop the White House tours for school children. They had to do this because these cuts were imposed by the sequester. But meanwhile, within a few days, the president finds an extra $250 million to send to Egypt. You know, the country where mobs attacked our embassy, burned our flag, and chanted death to America. He found an extra $250 million to reward them. You know, the country whose president recently stood by his spiritual leader who called for death to Israel and all who support her. I say not one penny more to countries that are burning our flag. But I do want to help the president. I have a few suggestions for him. I'm sorry I couldn't have lunch with him today. Maybe he'll be able to see this later on C-SPAN. So what I asked the president, if he wants to let the school children back in the White House, what about the $3 million that we spend studying monkeys on meth? Does it really take $3 million to discover that monkeys, like humans, act crazy on meth? Mr. President, what about the $300,000 for a robotic squirrel? Now, they wanted to study whether a squirrel that doesn't wag its tail, whether it will be bitten by a rattlesnake. Only problem, they couldn't find a real squirrel to volunteer not to wag its tail. But I can tell you the bottom line for the $300,000 question, a rattlesnake will bite the you-know-what out of a squirrel not wagging its tail. Mr. President, maybe we could have cut the robotic squirrel. before we went to White House tours. Now, for any of you college students looking for jobs, Uncle Sam's got a job for you. The pay's $5,000, all expenses paid. The study is in Hawaii. But the requirements are onerous. Only a few could qualify. You have to like food. The study is to develop a menu for when we colonize Mars. I'm not making this up. Guess what a bunch of college students came up with for the menu? Pizza. You could cut one of these programs and return to letting the school children come to the White House. This government's completely out of control. We desperately need a new course and new leadership. The path forward for the Republican Party is rooted in the respect for the Constitution and respect for the individual. Part of that respect is allowing Americans to freely exercise one of their most basic rights, the right to bear arms. But you can't protect the Second Amendment if you don't protect the Fourth Amendment. If we are not secure in our homes, if we are not secure in our persons and our papers, can we really believe that the right to bear arms will be secure? We need to jealously guard all our liberties. The Facebook generation can detect falseness and hypocrisy a mile away. I know, I have kids. They are the core, though, of the Leave Me Alone coalition. They doubt Social Security will be there for them. They worry about jobs and money and rent and student loans. They want leaders that won't feed them a line of crap or sell them short. They aren't afraid of individual liberty. Ask the Facebook generation whether we should put a kid in jail for the nonviolent crime of drug use, and you'll hear a resounding no. Ask the Facebook generation if they want to bail out too big to fail banks with their tax dollars, and you'll hear a hell no. There is nothing conservative about bailing out Wall Street. Likewise, there is nothing progressive about billion-dollar loans to millionaires to build solar panels. The Republican Party has to change by going forward to the classical and timeless ideas enshrined in our Constitution. When we understand that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely, then we'll become the dominant national party again. It's time for us to revive Reagan's law. For liberty to expand, government must shrink. For the economy to grow, government must get out of the way. This month, I will propose a 5-year balanced budget. My budget eliminates the Department of Education, and devolves power and money back to the states where they belong. My 5-year budget will create millions of jobs by cutting the corporate income tax in half, by creating a flat personal income tax of 17%, and cutting the regulations that are strangling American business. The only stimulus ever proven to work is leaving more money in the hands of those who earned it. The Constitution must be our guide. For conservatives to win nationally, we must stand for something. We must stand on principle. We must stand for something so powerful and so popular that it brings together people from the left and the right and the middle. We need a Republican Party that shows up on the south side of Chicago and shouts at the top of our lungs, "We are the party of jobs and opportunity. The GOP is the ticket to the middle class." The GOP of old has grown stale and moss-covered. I don't think we need to name any names, do we? Our party is encumbered by an inconsistent approach to freedom. The new GOP will need to embrace liberty in both the economic and the personal sphere. If we're going to have a Republican Party that can win, liberty needs to be the backbone of the GOP. We must have a message that is broad. Our vision must be broad, and that vision must be based on freedom. There are millions of Americans, young and old, native and immigrant, black, white, and brown, who simply seek to live free, to practice their religion, free to choose where their kids go to school, free to choose their own health care, free to keep the fruits of their labor, free to live without government constantly being on their back. I will stand for them. I will stand for you. I will stand for our prosperity and our freedom. And I ask everyone who values liberty to stand with me. Thank you. God bless America. Thank you.
Guys, order another round because we're staying here. Yeah. What was I thinking going back to Aunt Ida? I mean, we just got here and we have more than enough food to get us through the winter, right? Why go back?
But there was that ant that stood up to me.
Yeah, but we can forget about him.
Yeah, it was just one ant. One ant.
Yeah, you're right. It's just one ant.
Yeah, boss, they're puny.
Puny? Say, let's pretend this grain is a puny little ant. Did that hurt?
Nope.
Well, how about this one? Are you kidding? How about this? You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? He's quite the motivational speaker, isn't he? Let's rock!